Hey everybody, welcome to Thrive After Divorce. It's Lisa and I'm back with another expert to give you another skill so that you can not just survive, but thrive, move forward and find happiness. Today we have Lydia Grace. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. You're coming to us from Colorado. And you are an embodiment coach and somatic educator. You could teach me English, educator. And you've worked in the holistic health and mental wellness field for over 15 years. You've worked with over 12,000 clients. You are gaining over 5,000 hours of education as a yoga instructor, meditation facilitator, your health coach, massage therapist, a teacher, and you also teach embodiment coaching. So welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My first question for someone, what is embodiment coaching?
Embodiment coaching is a specific type of facilitation. My philosophy is I come to the client and my main focus is being trauma informed and bringing a consent-based style. And that means, you know, a lot of us go to like a therapist or coach and we follow what they want, that we follow their path. And we're not really given check-ins of like, is this the direction you really want to go? Is there anything else you'd rather pivot to? Yes. One of the things my clients love is that my philosophy is you have the wisdom in you. We're just facilitating a safe space for you to discover your own genius so that you can become your own guide with my support. So I provide support and guidance until someone has a deep sense of self-trust and empowerment so that they can move forward on their own.
I love that.
Embodiment specifically has to do with body. Somatic means in the body. So it has to do with not just thinking, because a lot of us are overanalyzers. We try to think through all of life's problems. And our body has so much wisdom to give us, but most of us have dissociated from traumas or different life events, and we don't really know how to reconnect. And there's so much wisdom here that if we can have the right approach to start learning the language of ourselves, which a lot of us don't know, then we have so much more to work with, and it becomes a much more inner collaborative effort rather than a push-pull resistance inner fight.
Okay. And so embodiment coach versus somatic.
They're kind of interchangeable words.
I was gonna say, okay, because I'm like, they sound so similar to me.
Yeah.
And so my question that's coming to my head is when you're working with a client and you're doing, finding that magical tool that's going to work with them, who do you think knows first when you find that gold that's clicking with them? Do you think they know, or do you think you see it? Like, do you see their whole body change or like their face relax?
It's a combo. So at the beginning, I usually recognize it first because I'm an expert in nonverbal communication from 15 years of teaching yoga, teaching massage, meditation, facilitation. So I have worked with the human body very hands-on for years. And I've been teaching how to work with bodies to other people. So there's a huge aspect of nonverbal communication that I have, and I work over Zoom ideally. Some clients like just being on the phone first, because again, it really has to do with developing trust over time. So depending on who's coming, most of my clients are good to just jump on a call right away. So a lot of times they're saying stuff and I'm like, can we take a pause? Your shoulders just crunched up right there. And we bring attention to how their body's responding to the words. Because a lot of times we're like, we have all these narratives, but we don't realize it's affecting us. And we don't realize our bodies are giving, like I said, so much information about everything that's going on. And we don't know how to listen to that voice or voices. So I recognize a lot. Most of what I'm recognizing at the beginning is how well a client is doing, because that's one of the skills we don't give ourselves credit for. We're not conditioned to do is build ourselves up. And that's one of the foundational skills for sustainable change. So while I'm talking with a client, I'm like, this is what you did that was awesome. The fact that you came to the call in this way is amazing. Yes, you were putting yourself down here. That's okay. You're allowed to have a human experience. And in that, there was self-awareness. You had this awareness to do that. You came with curiosity. And as I'm saying these, I'm seeing these little like light bulbs of like, you're right, I did do that. I haven't been looking at that. And so almost at the beginning when I'm working with someone, it's really about, can we start just tuning in to how well you're already doing?
Yeah, because growing up, I don't think anyone asked you to tune into your body.
Mm-mm.
When we're little, we all know like, oh, you're gonna maybe get butterflies and that's just nerves. But no one, your mom doesn't, well, I shouldn't say this, not for everyone, but in general, someone doesn't look at you and say, is that bothering you? Because you scrunched your shoulders.
Yeah, exactly.
To bring awareness to like your body. I'm thinking of the title, The Body Keeps the Score from that book, but it really does. Our bodies tell us where we're at.
Our bodies respond first. Our nervous system responds first through the body. Then our emotions and mind catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start noticing our body's responses, it doesn't, and here's the thing, it doesn't mean just because my shoulders scrunch up, you're dangerous. It just means that's how I've reacted to that type of wording or that nonverbal communication. So it doesn't mean now we have to take scrunch shoulders as the new narrative.
No.
And so again, there's like the way we work with what we're noticing also matters.
And then just in case anyone's wondering, because we're talking about body work, but you do it over Zoom. It's not, and because you're also a massage therapist, this body work is not you manipulating the body or physically working with the body. Just to clarify for
we're working over Zoom, right? Over technology. So the way in which I'm quote unquote working with the body is through observation and the facilitation of how their posture is. So in a session, I might, obviously with the client's interest and consent, take them into a guided meditation or a guided somatic practice, which just means some form of being physically in their body, like movement, yoga, breath work, dance, whatever. And in a way that feels safe to them. So I have some clients that are just not ready to go straight into their body, and we need to process a little more information first, because a lot of us information creates more safety. You know, we're grown up saying, do this because I told you to, instead of do this and here's the reason. This is how it's going to benefit you, or this is how it's going to benefit the family. We're just told to do stuff. And so we lose connection to knowing, but do I really want to? Or we just fight against it of like, no, I don't want to. And then there's a conflict.
Right. Even like if you're always told sit up straight, and you might not know why that benefits you, but you might resist it because you're like, my mom always told me to sit up straight. Now I don't want to sit up straight. I don't want anyone to tell me to sit up straight. Exactly. But when sitting up straight can actually benefit you.
Yep.
And okay. And now I know you teach internationally and you bring insight to the education and practices, but I love your big vision, which you absolutely love being a facilitator for massive transformation in others. People going through a divorce or who have they're in a massive transformation, whether they want to be or not. But how can we lead them into a massive positive transformation?
I have a client right now who's reached out to me because they were going through a divorce. And within 2 sessions, they were like, you've changed my life. They signed up for 5 months with me because I usually do packages of 3 to 6 months. Because again, the philosophy is this takes time. And if you really want a true paradigm shift, let's work together for at minimum 90 days. Because that's a lot of times the new neural pathways, the neurochemistry, we want to leverage neuroplasticity in the brain and body behavior change. And that takes time, and it takes, in a 3-month span, people are going to dip on some level. And so having coaching support of like, what happens when I don't do what my intention was and I'm not just riding a high? What happens on the down? How do I self-soothe? How do I come back to a space of compassion in a different way than before? So the purpose, like with this person that recently had come to me, a lot of times when there's a breakdown in relationship and ending in something like a divorce or a breakup, there's been a loss of connection, not just with each other, but with ourselves. Mm-hmm. We no longer know, wait, where am I? Who am I? I don't know who I am. And there's a desire, the number one human desire is for connection back to ourselves, connection to other people. And so there's a big loss, not just of connection to someone else, but like, who am I now? Like, who am I without this person? Who am I after all this conflict? Who am I now seeing all these behaviors that maybe I don't like, or that someone treated me poorly and I didn't know how to whatever. Now what? So the desire is, can I come back to myself? And as an embodiment coach, it's like hands down, yes. We're not taught that. So many of us go forward feeling kind of hopeless, or like, I guess I have to settle for not great stuff.
I have two questions in what you just went over. The first one, you know, when people are working with a coach or learning a new skill, do you think sometimes, I'm not saying I don't want anyone to fail, but sometimes those little dips are good. And then to have a coach there, and then you can see how you use those skills and how they made the difference. And we can't really know that unless you take that little dip. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. The dips feel like failures because we live in a capitalistic society that's all about pushing production.
Right.
So when it doesn't feel productive in the moment, which many of us have been conditioned, negative emotion is unproductive. So if we have a negative emotion, we very quickly default to, this must be bad. I don't know what to do with this, therefore I'm afraid of it. I want to avoid it, dissociate, do something else.
Or I failed, so I quit.
Must be failing. Yeah, I must be failing. And when I'm working with a client, one of the things that I bring up is, you're 100% succeeding because your body and nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is protect you. Mm-hmm. And we develop protective mechanisms based on the environment around, and they become stronger based on the amount of trauma we've gone through. So our window of tolerance of what we can healthfully deal with gets smaller the more we're dealing with, the more trauma and challenges we have. And so what we used to think we could handle that maybe now we can't is just a smaller window of tolerance. It's not a failure. It's our nervous system trying to make our lives smaller so we have less to deal with. But we see that as a failure. Like now I'm socially isolating, but the body's like, that's what you needed. Yeah. You didn't need as much activity as before. And so I help clients reframe what they think as failure as your body being very wise to show you information, and we get to look at it from a different perspective. What if we stood over here and looked at it? Look, see, it's not failure from this perspective. Over here, it's actually progress. Right. And they, not just intellectually, but in their body, they start to really feel, my cat, a shift in how they're how they used to process and how they're starting to process life in a different way.
And that's what I mean, when you can feel, because you can tell someone that shift, you can teach that shift, but until someone feels it, that feeling it, you know, it's like getting your first little bit of something sweet or sugar and you're like, I want more. Like you get that dopamine hit, you're like, I can do this. It gives you, it can lead to confidence.
Exactly.
Then I've never asked a body coach this, but you know, we hold so much in our body. And if you're coming into a divorce, your relationship's probably been tapering off, and maybe not, maybe you're totally blindsided. But what about actual physical touch? Like you've been used to being hugged, now you're not hugged. You've been used to, like we talked about human connection. You've had that physical human connection, even if it was just someone walking by and brushing your back or good job, and that's gone. Does the body react to missing that? I mean, I know our minds do and our heart does. Does the body?
I mean, 100% our bodies are always responding to everything, you know? And
Right.
I mean, I think for a lot of people, by the time divorces happen, they probably haven't been touching. So
That's what I
that's
mean.
probably been already a loss they've had.
Yes, but that's part.
And yeah, exactly. That's part of the process. So it's a combo of allowing yourself to be human and knowing that you're not just grieving a person, you're grieving your body, like what your body used to get as needs, you know?
Mhm.
And, you know, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, some people do who love animals, for example. We can
Right.
get a lot of touch sense, like response from like a pet.
Mhm.
And even just most of us aren't taught to touch our own bodies unless it's for like self pleasure, which
Right.
is great, is a really good thing to practice. Uh, but even the practice, I worked with a client one time where I was like, can you place your hand on your heart? She couldn't do it.
Really?
She did not have the capacity to
She
feel
just
safe enough to touch her own heart. So I was like, okay, where do you feel safe enough to touch yourself? And I think she was able to touch her cheek. She couldn't go below her neck.
wow.
And it was very interesting because she could receive touch all day long, but she hadn't gotten to a point where she had the ability to tune in to herself alone, to feel safe being present with what she was touching.
Isn't
And
that
so it was very, very interesting to facilitate that space because as a coach, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to notice, to hold
safe
space, and to
space?
let
And
someone come into themselves as slowly or quickly as they need to.
so how do
And
you
for
even
her,
do that?
it was transformational for her to touch her face and to just be, and I think she could maybe like touch her ankle or something, but there wasn't an ability because of dissociation, other things from the past. And over time, she was able to start really coming into a deeper sense of, I want to love on myself this way. I want to touch
Yeah.
myself. Oh my goodness, this is so, I get to be so gentle, you know? And I'm not a trauma therapist. I don't have licensing as a therapist trained in trauma. I have training in trauma to be trauma informed. So I have a context of understanding it and knowing my scope of practice. I will very easily tell a client, it'd be great if you had a trauma therapist on the side because that'd be a great thing to work on, to process through. What we can do is even when you think about that, how is your body responding? How
Yeah.
can we create a container where even just the thought of that event can allow you to have a chance to learn how to regulate your own nervous system and emotions. Let's build those skills so that when you go into trauma therapy, you're not just like imploding or exploding. You don't have to have this big cathartic response that's going to disrupt your life. You can go understand your patterns and boundaries of, you know what, I'm good. I've talked enough. I don't want to go further. And you can actually develop boundaries with your therapist. So a lot of what I do is teaching people how to really honor what their body's telling them. One, learn how to listen, what that language is, honor it, and develop boundaries inside themselves so they can have boundaries with other people. Most of us are taught boundaries are bad. They create conflict. And like, you don't have to give an explanation when you have a boundary, just say no. And that can actually be a trauma response if you push someone away really hard to
Yeah.
protect yourself. What we want is, can most of us have been people pleasers. So we don't want to cause conflict. We're afraid.
Right.
So the point is, can we have a firm boundary and be compassionate?
And if people could understand, and I'm, not a somatic coach, but just from my reading and living, if you could understand that our body does react first, we're literally thinking with a different part of our brain. And if we can't regulate our body, we can't regulate our mind. And then we make reactionary decisions or emotions, or we don't move. We, get in that freeze and flight. And my body, it always shows my anxiety first.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, even if you notice that you're twisting paper or doodling, or I start to like lose my breath or something, but your body will constrict, and then your mind just doesn't work the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, a lot of clients come to me and be like, affirmations have never worked. And I'm like, there's a reason. You're not broken. And I get frustrated equally. Good job at noticing the affirmations don't work for you, because sometimes they can be BS.
And if you don't believe them,
If you're trying to convince your body of something without listening to it, then you're just forcing something without its consent. Like, I need to think I am strong when every part of you is like, I feel fucking weak.
yeah, you're lying to yourself.
It feels like you're gaslighting or lying to yourself. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I help clients do is you get to validate your reality and open to the possibility of a new shift at the same time. You do not have to invalidate how you're feeling to move into a positive direction.
Wait, say that again.
You do not have to invalidate your reality
Okay.
in order to move into a positive direction you want to move.
Okay.
Many of us are like, I have to negate this
Right.
feeling because somehow it's bad and I'm going to manifest more negative feelings. I call BS
Right.
on that. I say, yeah, if you wallow in it, sure. But if you say anger is a mobilizing emotion, when there's a healthy version of anger in my body, it gets me to move, to be mobile. When
It
I
can propel you.
It allows me to hold a boundary where I wasn't. It allows me to call in respect when I wasn't. If I can work with the emotion of anger without letting it direct my actions, but letting it be a collaborative asset, connect to my own inner guide and intuition to say, thank you, anger. Now I can tune in. That's a really important thing to stand up for. Then I can learn how to regulate my nervous system, and with a sense of deeper calm and resilience, move into a situation with preparation instead of reactivity.
Just sitting here thinking, and I've never thought this, we listen to our bodies all the time as far as if we eat something we don't like how it tastes, no, I'm not eating that again. If a sound hurts our ears, if you're sensitive to like nails on the chalkboard or whatever, no, you're not going to hear it. If it burns your eyes, you're not going to open your eyes in the chlorine. But why our heart or our nervous system, we've learned to ignore?
I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
You know what I'm saying? Though, like if people just think of that, like you don't have to validate it.
Yeah, patriarchy and oppressive systems, like shame is the weapon of the oppressor. So if you can shame someone out of being able to tune into their own truth,
right,
you have control.
Yeah.
So
right, for people that are like when you said you don't have to validate it, like you don't have to explain why you don't like grape jam. You just would just say like, I don't like it. Why? Yeah. I don't know. I don't like it. Done. Over. And I'm good with it. Like I have no shame about it.
And yet a whole fight starts when someone says, I don't like your tone.
Right.
Like that's the beginning of many fights. Of like, I don't like your tone. And it's someone noticing their nervous system saying, the way you're communicating with me non-verbally is a threat to my emotional or physical or psychological safety.
Okay, so if we go to that, I'm sure many people listening have heard someone say to them, I don't like your tone. So when that comes up, would you instruct them in their head to think about what they've just said? Or do you instruct them, how does your body feel? Are you being oppressed? And there's somebody trying to control you?
It totally depends on the situation. So it depends, first of all, how urgent a boundary needs to be set. If it's more of an abusive situation or just a regular human to human conflict, or there's miscommunication and there's different modes of communicating, right? So that needs to be determined first. Is this a safety issue? A real safety issue? Most of my clients, like I said, I don't work as a trauma therapist, are not dealing with extreme safety issues.
Right.
Together, what we process is when you think of that event, how did you feel in your body? Oh, my throat constricted. What if we gave that constriction in your throat a voice? What would it tell you? Hypothetically, because a lot of my clients are like, I don't know, it's my throat. And I'm like, okay, we're going into imagination now. There is no right answer. If the constriction in your throat had a voice, what would it say? Sometimes the answer is, I don't know, which is usually a subconscious way of saying, I don't want to go there yet. And that gets to be respected. Or I say, how old does that constriction feel? They might be like 11. Cool. Are you okay to bring the 11-year-old to the conversation? Yes. What does the 11-year-old want to say today? Not what happened to the 11-year-old. Let's bring that part of you in. Does that 11-year-old have a need? that needs to be met right now between us in this moment. It wants to feel loved. Okay. Is that something you can do for your 11-year-old right now? How does it want to be loved? It wants a hug. Give yourself a hug. How does that feel? You know, so we can go in to, that's an example of how we might go into the inner conversation.
Okay.
And that helps to build the awareness of what's happening with the client. As far as what do you do about this other person? That's a whole other conversation of what is your intention for this relationship? Is it something you're moving away from, or is it something you want to keep putting into and heal? You know, if it's something you want to heal, what are your values in relationship that you want to start embodying? I want to embody compassion and kindness. I want to embody integrity and my own values. Meaning, like, I still want to stand up for myself, but I want to do it from a place of kindness, not aggression.
Right.
So we go into that. Then that helps them filter. They use those filters to be like, okay, what's another response you can give instead of just saying, I don't like your tone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many scripts out there of being like, I feel this way when you, right? Like in nonviolent communication. And there's all these scripts that we can practice. And many of us are like, and it doesn't work. Why?
I was just say, don't you think there's so many out there that it's been overdone? And so when you start with a, I feel like this, people are starting to shut off because they know, like, this isn't authentic. You're practicing something you read. But yeah, I agree. If I were with you as a client and he said, I don't like your tone, and my body clenched up because I knew it was coming, it was going to be bad and aggressive in a place I don't want to be. That's different than someone I care about, I respect. They say, I don't like your tone. Then I have to look inward and think, this person I care about triggered something in me. I over responded, or I didn't respond the way I wanted to. And then would you teach me the warning signs of what happened first in my body that I could have noticed?
There's a lot of practice in our sessions in real time. I'm not a fan of, let's talk about it intellectually, you go practice on your own. I'm a fan of, if it's a practice, let's do it now. Let's see how it works with me.
Like, let's role play. I like role playing too.
Let's kind of role play. Let's do the breath work now. You tell me if it works or not. And or some clients are like, well, I'd kind of rather practice it on my own first. I'm like, cool. And next session, how'd that go? I didn't do it. Awesome. Rather than you failed, we get to say there's some level in your subconscious where there wasn't consent being given to go forward with that. Let's get curious, you know?
Yes. Back to like what you said, when people say, I don't know, it means I don't want to go there.
Yeah. Or
so if they didn't try the exercise, I don't want to go there, which isn't a fail and there's no judgment, but it's a why. Like
it's a why. It can be a why in the moment, or it can be that's your version of saying no.
Okay.
Or later. And that gets to be a level of consent that I get to practice respecting, because maybe other people in their life never respected that. So much of what I do as a coach is embody versions of what a healthy relationship would look like to them. Obviously, it's not a romantic relationship, but there's co-regulation. I'm allowing myself to not be triggered in my nervous system or emotions by what they're saying. And then I tell them how I'm doing that if needed. And I show them how they can, right? And then, so as a coach, it's totally in my integrity to be practicing all of this so that I can show up in authenticity of what I'm facilitating for them.
I love that, how you said that sometimes you have to learn that later is their version of no. And if you can learn that, and then I'm just wondering, as a coach, would you want to get them to a point where they can say no? Because if they're in life saying later and nobody else knows that problem's going to keep coming back to them. Like, okay, how about now? How about now?
The most important skill before, it's hard because we're all living with people all the time. So it can feel hard sometimes to be like, I need to make all the progress right now.
And you can't.
The foundational skill is you need to know yourself first on some level. But sometimes you can't know yourself without support, which is why I'm a coach.
Education.
Exactly. I help you facilitate an understanding of yourself because I know how to go there. I know how to go there safely. I know how far to go without going too far.
Yep.
And I've been training and practicing for this for years. I've also had the experience of someone taking me too far where it disrupted my life.
Yep.
And so I know the negative side of that. I know what it feels like to feel safe with a therapist or coach and not feel safe. And
Yep.
so much of that, the more awareness we can bring, and in order to own responsibility for ourselves, it allows us to then give back responsibility to the other person for what they are responsible for. Many of us take on, I don't want them to feel a certain way, so I'm not going to stand up for this because I'm afraid of their emotion, because they're actually afraid of their emotion. So we both know their emotion is unpredictable. That doesn't feel safe to me. I'd rather just keep my mouth shut.
Right. So you regulate their emotions. You're not regulating your own.
You're trying to regulate theirs, but because you're not aware of your own, there's a disconnect and then a reactivity that you're not noticing you're triggering them. And then it's this back and forth.
Yeah. See, this whole thing's fascinating to me. And I think two things why I, want to bring knowledge to the show is that if we've always felt something or always have done it and you just think it's normal, it might not be normal. And so you need to be educated to go, oh, maybe that's me. And then to hear a practitioner explain what it is, because if people don't know what's out there, you can't know what help is available.
Yeah. Somatic,
how long has it been around? I feel like it's getting bigger and bigger.
It is getting bigger and bigger. So I really appreciate social media for the spread of good information.
Yeah, but I mean, when did it, because I've just noticed it in the last couple of years, but when did it really come?
Many of these practices that I've trained in and support for clients came from the 80s and 90s, but they were very small sub pockets of psychology. Because most of psychology, the paradigm is the DSMR of what's your mental disorder? What pill can we give you to fix it? You're actually incurable. You have to deal with this the rest of your life. Trauma therapy and these somatic therapies have the paradigm, you're not broken. Your nervous system has actually adapted for you to survive. Now can we start re-educating, deconditioning to re-educate the nervous system to build resilience in a way where you do not have to work with stress the same way and you can heal the trauma in your body. It's a completely different paradigm.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily conducive to the pharmaceutical industry. So we can go on a whole nother tangent with that, right?
Yeah.
Not to say I'm not totally against pharmaceuticals, because I think in certain cases they're phenomenal.
It's needed.
Some people, right?
Yeah.
That's not my purview. That's not what I do with clients, but I support whatever their choices are. And so it's starting to come into the mainstream.
I think, because I got divorced 12 years ago, and I remember thinking, I need help, I need therapy, but I knew I don't want therapy. I was like, I do not want to go sit and talk about my childhood. I can barely handle today. I couldn't breathe. I mean, I literally could not breathe. Mm-hmm. And I would have to tell myself, it's in and out. It's in and out. And if I could have had someone say, hey, you should go to, this kind of practitioner or this, I would have done that because it would be help with what I was dealing with now. And
I want to give an example to any of the listeners so that you can walk away with something practical that you can do right now or today. Yeah. So I was working with one of the clients that I have who was going through a divorce when we connected. And one of the things that we worked through was the way you approach something you have to do has everything to do with how it's going to work out. He had to go through his divorce papers and get to the point where he could sign them. And so we went through a conversation of, when you think about that task, what's coming up in your body?
I'm sure you want to throw.
How can we shift the dynamic from very, very simple things? Like I taught him this, which for him was the magical tool for his nervous system. I said, take your hand, place it on the back of your neck where it meets your skull. Okay. Place the other hand on your heart.
Does it matter which is which?
No.
Sometimes
sometimes it does, but for the sake of this, no, let's keep it simple. Wherever your hands go intuitively is correct.
Right.
Let the back of your neck and head start relaxing into your hand, and see at the same time if you can notice your heart beating with the hand on your chest. you're present now with your body. It's one of the fastest ways to start being present. Now notice your breathing and start to give permission to your body to breathe deeper with ease. And then focus on a longer exhale. So longer exhales is the fastest way to calm down the nervous system, focusing on lengthening the exhale. Most people are taught, take a deep breath. I'm like, that stimulates you more.
Right.
So sometimes for some people, taking a deep breath makes them feel more anxious. Focus on a longer exhale and then give yourself a little love, whatever you're capable of doing right now. Give yourself a love from your hands to your body, from your heart to your hands. So it's like this figure eight almost.
Yeah.
And we can go as esoteric as we want.
Now,
So,
just someone may be wondering, because again, sometimes it matters, sometimes not. When they do that longer exhale, do you have a preference if it's through your nose or mouth?
ideally through the mouth. The reason is because if you can practice relaxing the jaw, that's a signal to the vagus nerve to come out of a fight or flight response. So
which the vagus nerve is our biggest nerve.
It's a cranial nerve that determines whether we're in a fight or flight or rest and digest. It's a lot to do with our digestion, everything. So it's one of the biggest nerves in the body as far as how our emotions run.
If people just think, even if you're sitting at the table and you think it's just paperwork, you could reframe it. It's just paperwork. But no, like my pen would still be shaking. You can't do it. And if you even just take that moment, hand on the back of the neck, hand on your heart, get centered.
Yourself love. We then create an intention. The intention for the paperwork is not to process emotions. This is not when you're processing emotion. We're going to do it in the next session. We're going to do it in coaching, or you're going to do it from another thing we've talked about.
Right.
Right now, you're going into your task positive network of your brain. You're just going to respect. If you go 5 minutes and your emotions start going up, take a break, go get water. Notice, what is a need I can meet right now for myself? Oh, water. Oh, take the dog out. Oh, do the dishes, whatever. Meet a need for yourself. If you need to get it done, come back. Again, take a moment. Where am I? Can I bring my energy calm to whatever level? You know, we're working through this in the coaching relationship to really get into the details. So I'm simplifying it.
And that's why people need to know a coaching package that's 3 months or 5 months. It's because it's work, it's practice. It's just like a gym membership and building a muscle. You wouldn't join a gym for 2 days.
Exactly. And sometimes there's quantum leaps, you know, there's quantum change, and it's like we're just ready for a big shift. And this one of the clients, they had a really big shift at the beginning. And then because I know behavioral psychology and understand this, I knew at some point there was going to be some sort of dip or plateau, which did happen. Not that I'm projecting onto them, just I have openness for I'm okay with anything to happen. They came feeling discouraged, and I was like, guess what? That is actually really good that your nervous system did that, because we want to be able to go up, have ups and downs. That's a natural, the heart beats up, there's an up and a down for, you see the heartbeat. That's how we go through life. So it's not about not having that. It's about knowing how to ride that wave and feel better about it and make it smaller, or however you're wanting to approach it.
And make it your normal. Make your norm that, why do I feel like I saw someone told me put your hand here and then on your head? Is that one?
There's so many. Yeah, that's one too.
Okay.
You know, it depends, because
just something.
Putting your hand over your head is a really nice way for people that get overstimulated, like our sensory sensitive, highly sensitive people, to calm the frontal lobe, the neocortex, and that kind of helps calm the energy down a little bit in the racing mind. And we have so many muscles on our face. So so much of touch with intention has such a huge effect on the nervous system. And we're just not taught that. We're just do the fastest thing, drink water, take a big breath, calm down.
Even if I'm thinking, like one thing I try to do each night, you know, there's putting on lotion because your skin's dry but I try to really like have a nice thick, like put on lotion and massage it in and just take that time and unwind myself from the day. So just being conscious in so many of the things we touch, even if you brush your hair and really try to feel the bristles.
And a lot of people are like, how does that relate to my divorce? Right. And what I want to say is what I love doing is taking all these abstract concepts and putting them into very practical tools that we can immediately bring into our daily lives with actual effect, so we see a result. That's one of the things that I'm really good at, helping people understand how to take all this busy age of information. Information does not equal transformation. Most of the time it just equals overload.
That should be a shirt. Do you have a t-shirt in that? Information does not equal transformation. Everybody hear that?
So many of us are like, if I just read this next book, if I just listen to this next TED talk, and then we walk away being like, I suck, I can't implement anything. It's like, there's a reason for that too.
Do you think some people self-sabotage? Like they hear it, they want to start to work with you, but even if it's subconscious, if they fail, they can be like, oh, I tried it, it didn't work for me.
Self-sabotage is the body saying, I don't feel safe to do it yet. So again, I come at a lot of perspective from a completely different way that most people are conditioned to think, which is why my clients love working with me, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much more permissive. It's so much more validating. Self-sabotage is you being human, because either you don't have the tools to go there safely yet, you just don't feel safe. There's some aspect of your humanity, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, psychological, that is not giving consent for some reason. So let's get curious about that, rather than using self-sabotage as a way to berate ourselves more and feel ashamed.
So like, to take an example, if this is what you're saying, and correct me, but let's take losing weight, something most people have probably attempted. The diet doesn't work. But then when you take it deeper to go, why do you really not want to lose weight? And it might get down to a deep rooted issue that, well, if I lose weight, then I might shine and or be my best self, or there's some fear that's making them sabotage the diet.
I have a client right now who that's one of their goals, and they've struggled with it.
To lose weight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the why. Sure. A lot of times we don't know why. That's why it keeps happening. We can't come to that answer intellectually. There's just some sort of refusal in the body to face it, to go there. So it's a really gentle approach of getting curious. So I am almost 38. In my early 20s, I had an eating disorder. So I totally understand body dysmorphia, disordered eating habits, feeling like you can't not think about food all day long and you don't know what to do with it. And the more you think about it and try to restrict, the worse it gets, and you're binging. And I've been there.
Right. Well, usually something put you on this path.
Yeah. So I understand that addictive, desperate mentality and feeling like you don't have control. One of the very effective tools that I learned at the time that brought me into full recovery was, while I'm going through this, how can I take care of myself? Rather than, I'm not taking care of myself because this is a bad behavior. It doesn't have to be black and white. It gets to be, I notice that this is a behavior in my life I'd like to change. What can I do to support myself to move in that direction? So I can meet with success right now, today, soon, instead of waiting for that huge chasm that feels like I have to leap to say, now I can be happy. And so much of our lives, we're waiting for this huge shift before we're allowed to feel things. We get to support ourselves the whole time.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be this or that. It can be this and that.
While I'm feeling anxious, what can I do to support myself? Oh, I can get water. Oh, I haven't eaten. I can go get a snack. Oh, I have eaten. I can go take a bath.
Okay, so you just keep looking for that. How can I support myself?
What does my human need right now? Because our human is the one that's gone through the trauma. I believe we can say, whatever our beliefs are, I like to think we have a soul, something that's not really affected by our human experience. So I like this idea of my soul asking my human, what do you need right now? How can I support you?
I love that. Because so often, well, at least I hear and read, we are not human or we're humans. What's that? Like having or like souls having the human experience. I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But, you know, so I read it so much and that, but I've never thought of my soul, of reversing it to have my soul ask, what does the human need?
Yeah. What do you
Because
need?
I've trained myself so much to get out of ego and to get out of the body and to get out. But you're right, we have
And
to
it
get
almost,
back in.
for so many people, that encourages more dissociation.
Yeah.
And so to start again coming into, when you've gone through a break, through a divorce, through an unrepairable experience, it feels, or that's what's perceived anyways, it feels like you're missing something you can't have anymore. And one of the things we get to start cultivating is, okay, now you have a chance to do it for yourself. Not instead of getting it from others, because that leads to healthy connections once again when you're ready to date or whatever again, right? While you are single,
Yeah.
can you start validating your own humanness? Can you start understanding we feel misunderstood, we feel disrespected, we feel like no one gets us, like we're the black sheep, like almost every human feels that. Why do we all feel that? Like, are we all black sheep on the earth? No, we are just conditioned to feel like no one gets us. We're conditioned to isolate instead of realize this is the human condition. This is a natural feeling to this event.
Yes.
I don't have to stay here, but I can validate that I'm allowed to feel all the feelings. And now I also can learn the tools to know how to let these feelings not feel scary anymore, where I can actually have a conversation with them, where I can see that there's certain needs that I can start meeting. And there's other ones, like a client came to me saying, I feel guilty that I want people to validate me. I'm like, guess what? That's a human need. Congratulations on being self-aware. Like, we all want to be validated. So, and he's like, but no one does it. But he had spoken to having tons of amazing friends in his life right now. I was like, why don't you get a journal? Here's an idea, take it or leave it. You get to consent or not consent to this. Get a journal and start noticing all the tiniest things that people say that make you feel better about yourself, that make you feel good. Start writing it down. And it was a transformational shift for him of like, oh my gosh, people are validating me all the time.
And I bet a therapist, not to knock on therapy, I love therapy, but would have said, why do you think you need that validation? You know, or it could make you feel
guilty
or shamed or look like, why do I need it? Instead of just like, congratulations, you're human. We all like it. And it's the human. I was talking to a woman in Ireland today saying how when you talk to people around the world, it's like, we all feel the same. It's human. There might be different laws or cultures or customs around you, but the human body is human.
What if we started giving ourselves permission to show up as a human? And then from there, we decided how we wanted to shift, what we wanted to shift.
And you get to decide, what kind of human do I want to be?
Yep.
And give yourself permission. And I think that starts with self-trust, self-love. Those two things are easy to say, but to really do it
is hard.
It's hard.
Which is why having a coach sometimes is one of the best things you can do for yourself, because we're taught I'm supposed to self-regulate and you have to love yourself to love others. And I'm like, that's not how biology worked. We were ideally loved by our parents first in order to love ourselves. Mm-hmm. So if we go back to babyhood, infanthood, it's the opposite. So why are we saying we have to love ourselves first? What if we could learn how to find community where there was support? Yes. To build us up, find a coach, find a therapist, like the right fit, so that we could practice learning how to receive trust, receive love, receive validation, to start then giving it to ourselves, to then be able to offer it to others in a way that's not transactional. I did this, so you now have to do this, right?
No, and then we get into the whole energy world of the energy, and just it will go faster because you're with the right energy. But so my question would be, one of my last ones here, our bodies need to feel safe, and it has to start with us. So you can answer, I guess, all of these, or pick one. Like, how do we know we feel safe with ourselves? What can we do to let the human know it's safe, like the soul, like your mind, I got you, I'm going to keep you safe? Or what feeling comes over us when we're comfortable in our own skin?
Most of the clients come to me for those 3 questions.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Knowing I don't know how, I don't know what my intuition sounds like. I don't know how to listen to myself. I don't know what feels safe. First of all, I just want to put out there to anyone listening, safe might be a triggering word for you. Choose another word, connected.
Good idea, because safe can.
We get to so much of this process gets to be, is this word, does it make sense to you, or is that triggering? Because if the word safe triggers you, we're never going to get anywhere. Let's choose a different word.
Yes, especially I say that with things like God, spirit, Buddha, whoever is your highest power, higher power, use that word. If someone's saying God and that word triggers you, just switch out the word and get the message. But you're right.
As a massage therapist, I've been doing massage since 2009, so 12 years, and I've worked on thousands of people. And
you
people
hit it right out of high school, didn't you? You're so young. I'm like,
no, I became a massage therapist when I was 25 because I'm 37, right? So I went through college, did a bunch of jobs, and was a hippie.
But that's what I mean. You've been busy since you got out of high school. I like doing
a lot of stuff. I'm a variety person, ADHD. Working with people's bodies, clients have been like, how do you know my body so well? I'm like, first of all, you're human, so most humans have very similar patterns. But also, I come to every body, physical body, like a musical instrument that wants to be played. And I don't know how to play it. So I come into a space of intuitive curiosity and consent with that person's body. They tell me intellectually what they think they need, and then I'm working with the body non-verbally. I'm learning through a session how their body wants to be tuned and played to play music. Right. It looks very different for everyone. So there's not one, we all want the magic pill, the one answer.
Oh yeah.
And my response is, you're the magic pill.
It is, no matter what. People, I'm always like, you're just Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You have to go through this whole experience to get to the end to go, I had the answer. So
I will take you into the process and the journey so that you can start tuning into the language of your own intuition, even if that might not be the word. One client called it her better angel. Another client called it new mindset. Again, they get to even choose their word. It's going to look different to you. One person, when their intuition was speaking, they got tingling on their skin. Other clients, they've never experienced that. I'm not going to tell someone you're going to get tingling on your skin. No. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can't give you a very satisfactory answer, but one of the things we tend to do is we're looking for cues of danger all the time, especially when we've gone through a big challenge. Can we now start inviting cues of connection, safety? Can we start looking for what's called glimmers instead of triggers?
Glimmers instead of triggers?
Yes. And that is an invitation into noticing what feels better for you. What feels, a lot of times when we come into a moment of safety, our chest opens, our shoulders relax. We feel our spine, it feels like it's starting to feel supported with our weight instead of too heavy or too frazzled. There's certain things physiologically that are kind of normal for people to experience when there's a parasympathetic rest and digest response or an activated or an emotional collapse. There's various different things.
Yeah, when someone's done with something big, they always, that presentation's over. Drop their shoulders, a big breath, exhale.
I encourage massage therapists I teach. I encourage yoga students. I encourage clients. Take sighs on purpose. That is the way to help your body chill. It's not a negative. That's actually a really positive thing to do.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to make some bumper stickers or t-shirts. I love this. Glimmers instead of triggers. Information does not equal transformation. I think,
and so many of these, we don't have time to go into where I got all of this, but I really appreciate giving credit to where credit is due. The information instead of doesn't equal transformation. I heard it from someone and I don't know their name, so I can't give credit to them.
No, but still, you know what though? I give credit, I don't think that you're like a creative writer writing memes all day, but it's through your love and knowledge and wanting to help people and sharing that knowledge. That's what's so beautiful about it. And if it's yours, the glimmers instead of triggers, I'm using it. I'll give you credit.
Use it all you want. I learned it from, her name is Deb Dana. She's a therapist who teaches polyvagal theory, which is the science of safety.
Oh, once people know, if they just knew, everyone listening, here's what I want you to know. There's all kinds of help for you, but you need to be educated on what's out there, see what resonates with you. And because it's even like divorce coaching. If people come like, okay, how do you do it? What do you do? Fix me. I'm like, every divorce is different. Everything is different. Where are you at? Who are you dealing with? I don't have a magic pill, but I can help you get to the finish line and not break down and be scarred for life and keep doing it over and over. Yep. So you have been amazing. And we are going to have all your information listed in the show notes. And if you have any last tips that you want to give, and otherwise let everyone know where they can find you. And your pictures you have on Facebook and your things are so fun. And you are so flexible. Holy smokes, is that you?
Yeah, and honestly, I couldn't even bring my hands past my knees in high school. So flexibility is also a skill you can learn.
Okay. You would never guess that. If you saw the picture, I would ask anyone, just go look at her website or Facebook, because if you saw that picture and we judge that picture, you are going to think you were always healthy, limber, in shape. And for people to really remember that usually an expert gets to that point many
10,000
times.
Hours. 10,000 hours is what makes you an expert.
10,000 hours, but not just that, but I mean, you said you had your own issue with food and body.
And I've gone through trauma. I've dealt with PTSD. I've dealt with anxiety attacks in myself. I've dealt with deep depression in my life. I've dealt with chronic illness. So I think that allows me to come with a deep sense of compassion and complete validation for whatever someone's experience is, to be like, yeah.
I'm just saying, you would see that picture and be like, she just looks, you're so flexible. You're really flexible. Like, you really couldn't put your hands below your knees.
I couldn't, no. It was a struggle. I remember being in college and the dance teacher kind of insulted me because of how I couldn't even sit up straight with my legs out. Like, that's how I was hunched. I couldn't sit up straight.
Okay, so I lied. I have one more question. So to go from that to the flexibility you're at now, besides obviously it's physically stretching for your toes more and more and your ligament stretch, how much do you think had to do with your mind and body and trauma trapped? Did that affect your flexibility? Do you know what I mean? Like
exactly. Yeah. I became hypermobile over time. And again, that's a term anyone can look up. Hypermobility is when your ligaments get too stretched rather than your muscles. And so your ligaments are loose. So you look flexible, but you're actually just too flexible. Like, it's not great. Like, unless you build strength, you're prone to injury, which is what I became unknowingly. A lot, like, metaphysically, emotionally, that means like you have zero boundaries. So strengthening,
like a rubber band, when it's stretched too much, it can't hold anything or contain, and the
so
rubber band becomes useless to you, because it's like
learning how to strengthen again, of coming back to, all of us have a story behind the picture, you know, that's part of it's positive, part of it's negative.
It's true.
And one of the things that I can say, though, is the amount of flexibility and athletic ability that I had. Sure, I have a little bit of genetics to put me in that direction, but there was a huge part of it that actually came from my mind, and not the amount, because I'm lazy. I don't want to do the millions of hours that Cirque du Soleil people, but I kind of want to get sort of in that direction. What if I imagine myself doing it?
I imagine myself in a silk spinning,
how my body feels imagining it, because our imagination is powerful on the body. A lot of my physical progress has actually come from imagination.
That's what I meant. Like, somehow it's locked. We unlock our bodies.
Which is why for some people, affirmation works brilliantly. And imagining, how is it going to feel when you have 7 figures and a house and a Porsche, like be in the feeling of it. And it gets them to move in that direction very quickly because their body starts responding and they start embodying the person that has that.
And other people, their bodies call BS and they're like,
yeah.
No, now you're lying to me too. Now I can't even trust you.
Because it relates to their trauma or challenges they went through. And again, so that gets to be like, cool, you're a different kind of human. We get to approach it from a different way now. Guess what? You're individual, you have your own inner genius. And when it doesn't work for you, that means there's a better way or a different approach.
Okay, I interrupted you. So please tell us where everyone can find you. And again, we'll have it listed, but.
I'm on Instagram. My tagline is Joyful Nomad.
Love it.
Facebook, Lydia Grace Coaching. That's kind of my, business name. And where you can find most of my links, if you aren't on either of those platforms, is if you know Linktree, it's Linktree Joyful Nomad, but it's spelled a certain way, which will be in
and we'll have that.
Yeah, so there you can just click on that link, and that usually shows the different offerings I have. I teach live on Insight Timer on a meditation app regularly. I have group coaching, I have one-on-one coaching, I have online courses and workshops. So I'm a variety person. I like offering a variety to people so that they can be self-paced, be hybrid, be one-on-one. Again, you get to follow what you resonate with and are drawn to, and follow that and practice trusting that.
Love it. Thank you so much, Lydia, for coming.
Pleasure.
And I hope people check it out and just see all the different fun nomad ways they can find to help themselves and really know how much is in your body. I don't do body work. I mean, I don't teach it, but I believe in it. And I know it's a huge way I healed myself. And I really recommend people to just dabble into it and in any of your information. Because I know you said you have quite a bit. Do you have anything like a questionnaire that's like, do I feel this? Do I feel that? Like to know if they would benefit?
I actually offer online healing sessions for people where I take them into an intuitive healing journey for themselves, where it gives permission for their body to heal various things, which is different than my coaching.
Oh,
okay. That's on my list. And I do free embodied clarity calls. So someone can come on the call with me. They answer a questionnaire before, and we can see what's the best fit. You resonate with me. Where are you financially, emotionally, physically, time-wise?
Yeah.
What's your level of investment that you want in any of these areas? This is what I offer. What do you think? Kind of thing, Cool. So I do offer like free 20, 30-minute consults to people if they're just like, I don't know, but it sounds good.
Yeah. No, because I want to bring awareness because it's just such new work, but it's so positive. And I've known many people that have healed from it. And once you become aware of it, it's just becoming aware of your body. And
I want to end with saying this: your body, your intuition, your inner wisdom is so excited and waiting for you to come back home to it.
It is.
And it's so rewarding when you do. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but it's a very rewarding, exponentially rewarding process.
It very much is. Well, thank you. And I'm excited to share your work and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lydia.